Hello, I'm Richard Jack Smith of Real Talk Movie Reviews. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time was based on the 2003 game and starred Jake Gyllenhaal, Gemma Arterton and Ben Kingsley. While I don't remember a lot of the music from the one viewing I've had of the film, I've recently bought the DVD to check it out again, I would say my 2 times listening to this were fairly enjoyable. There's nothing particularly groundbreaking. This isn't Maurice Shah's Lawrence of Arabia or what would come much later, Gods of Egypt by Marco Beltrami. No, this is a pleasant, occasionally borderline generic soundtrack with some strong ethnic foundations, although Gregson-Williams rarely approaches the grandeur or majesty or even transcendence of perhaps his best score, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. His work on Prince of Persia remains distinctive, although it would sit apart from Stuart Chatwood's work on the video game. In cues such as Raid on Alamut and Hassan Sin Attack, he occasionally gets a little bit busy. There is a lot of holding back here. He doesn't always push himself to the brink quite like he did in Sinbad. In thinking about the latter score, Lighting Lanterns and Surfing were 2 of my favourite tracks, and I can't honestly say that there was anything approaching that level of just an emotional response for me with Prince of Persia. Just wasn't there. Now, the issue I have with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time as an overall soundtrack is that the traditions, musical or otherwise, the Persian heritage of which it aspires, it rarely, to Western ears, corresponds to anything unique or singular. You can tell in a lot of instances, perhaps at the behest of producer Jerry Bruckheimer, that he was instructing his composer Harry Gregson-Williams to maybe not make it so alien to the ears in terms of the type of instruments and the rhythms and the structure of the music. That occasionally comes out. Again, if you listen to later scores such as Gods of Egypt, especially Christophe Rezai's The Last Fiction, their universes apart from what Gregson-Williams did on Prince of Persia. Now, there are some good things here. Ostrich Race, as brief as it was quite exciting. I wanted more of those kind of moments in the score, and because there aren't, it's a little bit of a letdown. It doesn't always aspire to be anything beyond the norm. As I say, there are some borderline generic elements here. He doesn't play on the rock thing quite as heavily as John Debney's The Scorpion King, thank goodness, because I found those rock elements in that particular score rather distracting, away from, conjuring images of the desert and, snakes dancing around and, being so parched and exhausted that a single cup of water would be like a blessing. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time very much aspires to be a remote control soundtrack in the Hans Zimmer tradition. There are a lot of rhythms and ideas that you'll go, oh, I kind of recognise that. That reminds me a little bit of The Rock, perhaps, or even Pirates of the Caribbean, which Zimmer had a huge impact on. And I don't mind the themes. Again, in terms of thematic material, what's here is pleasant, nice. It won't stay in your mind very long, I wouldn't imagine, unless you listen to it a fair bit. Gregson-Williams was more successful integrating the ethnic ideas relating to Persia in this score compared to something like Spy Game, where I think there was a tendency towards more anonymous, almost sound design material. But there's very little of that. Occasionally you'll hear like a wisp or something where a drone will come in just for a couple of seconds and there'll be a little rhythmic idea. You go, oh, that's a little bit safe. But for the most part, this is an hour of decent listening. I can't imagine coming back to this more than maybe once every couple of years, but it's certainly a decent listening experience. And I do intend watching the film again on DVD. It's been a while. I watched it with a group of people back in 2010 when it first came out. So I guess what I would have liked a bit more in Gregson-Williams' take on this story would have been perhaps a few nods to Chatwood's score, which had some rock elements, but they were nicely integrated into the more, I guess, the pure Persian music, the forms and the feeling that go with that. There was a purity and a charm behind Chatwood's work that is perhaps missing a little bit. There are some subtleties and nice elements in Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, in terms of what Gregson-Williams wrought overall, but it could have gone a lot further. There are perhaps a couple of cues here that are expendable. Admittedly, I found some of the more romantic ideas very familiar. I mean, if you listen to Alan Silvestri's The Mummy Returns, it's that kind of thing. Nothing wrong with that, but nothing particularly standout quality. That's perhaps what I wanted most, was a distinctive flavour which pertained to the subject, because let's face it, it's based on an extraordinary video game, and one which I have to admit I missed out on playing originally, although I am making efforts to rectify that. And I think Gregson-Williams definitely enjoyed this experience. That's something that comes through in the music. I just would have liked a bit more of a strong emotional impact. I was kind of dancing between ratings on this one. I mean, there are times where the wind would just, knock the sign from a 3 to a 4 and then back to a 3 again. I have ultimately decided on 3 out of 5 stars. That makes this a good score overall. There's ambition and potential which I feel it didn't quite meet on the day, and so for that reason I've settled on the final rating of 3 stars. For more film and soundtrack reviews, please visit Betty Jo Tucker's website, Real Talk Movie Reviews. On Facebook you can find my pages, Hip-Notic Movie Reviews and Hip-Notic Soundtrack Reviews. You can also find me on Twitter at mbeanfan101. I am Richard Jack Smith, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.